Severance has become one of my favorite TV shows, and with any work of art that I love, I have been telling a lot of people about it, which has led me to discover something that I didn't expect. Severance is a uniquely difficult show to explain. Every time I try, I lead with the initial pitch. There's this technology that separates your work and home memories, and the person I'm talking to nods politely, but I can tell that they don't really get it. And I don't blame them, because I felt exactly the same way when it was first explained to me. When you hear that initial pitch, you can separate your work and home memories, it has the feeling of a complete explanation. You think you can understand what the show is about, but whatever you initially picture is nowhere near as interesting as what the show is actually about. Severance is full of twisting mysteries, shocking reveals, powerfully emotive storytelling, and a dash of existential horror. It develops its core ideas so thoroughly that it's impossible to predict where this show goes, and that's kind of what I love about it. If I try to explain all of these things to someone, well, then I've kind of spoiled the show in a way. Part of the fun is that surprise. So, what's going on here? A high-concept film, book, or TV show is defined by being based around a simple, easy-to-explain pitch. Humans are trapped in a vast cyberspace known as the Matrix. A man relives the same day over and over until he breaks the time loop. A man's whole life is a reality TV show. These stories make for great commercial cinema because their point is easily articulable. A trailer or billboard can put forward the concept and immediately the viewer understands what they're getting into. When you hear, this show is about a technology that allows people to separate their work and home memories, it seems high concept, like something splashy and commercial. But if I'm honest, this pitch just didn't really do it for me when I first heard it. I struggled to put my finger on exactly why, but it seems to hold for pretty much everyone that I try to recommend the show to. Nobody who I tell about Severance seems excited by that core pitch, but what people I have gotten to watch it almost universally love it. Maybe what's happening here is a kind of high-concept fatigue. After all of these crazy high-concept movies, maybe we're just tired of movies and shows that pitch themselves in this way. When I think about the appeal of Severance, what got me hooked, it isn't simply the core idea. It's the off-kilter vibe, the intense mystery, the existential horror, the commentary on slavery and modern work, its ability to surprise and confuse me at every turn. These are things which exist around its core idea, that are drawn from it, but I don't think that its core idea makes it clear that all of these things are part of the show. For that reason, it feels like Severance isn't really shooting for high concept. I don't think it's trying to explain everything that it's doing in this fun, cool line. I think that Severance actually has closer ties with a different genre entirely. Old school sci-fi was usually based around ideas. It was as much about imagining the implications of some new piece of technology as it was about telling a story. This book is about the laws of robotics. Isn't necessarily an interesting pitch, but it's what iRobot does with that idea that makes it a classic. These kinds of stories were all about implication, taking a core idea and teasing out all of its impacts. When this kind of thing is at its best, it's able to surprise you while also feeling entirely believable. These stories lay down their rules for you in advance and then play within those rules to reveal things that you don't expect. iRobot, for example, the book, not the movie, was based around a concept called the 3 Laws of Robotics, a set of fictional rules that could serve as ethical guidelines for intelligent robots. The book lays down these seemingly watertight rules at the start and then spends its various short stories poking holes in them in unexpected ways. A big part of the appeal of this kind of story is the surprise of it. You think that you understand the rules completely, yet the story still finds ways to turn things on their head. Severance is absolutely tapping into this lineage of storytelling, taking its core concept and running with it further than you would imagine or expect. Viewers of the show would know that it's truly delightful how much Severance does with its ideas, how it consistently surprises you with what's possible, and how it develops its mysteries and characters around its core idea. Because yes, if you could separate your work and home memories, companies would absolutely use that mismatch in information to abuse and manipulate your work self. Companies could engage in suspicious and mysterious activities, and your work self wouldn't know any better. But these ideas aren't immediately obvious when someone explains Severance to you. I like Severance's ideas. I love where it goes in exploring its core concept, but I also love that it surprised me like it did. Because I could sit and explain to someone a bunch of the implications of Severance, some of the subject matter that the show covers, but then that would rob that person of the delight of discovering just how crazy the show gets. It's like a paradox. I want to tell someone about all the wild twists and turns that this show takes, but if I do, then they stop being twisty and turny. They just become expected. A lot of incredible pieces of media have this very particular problem. If part of the appeal of something is the process of discovery, learning about all of the cool and wacky things that it does, how do you explain why you like it without fundamentally ruining it? Part of the reason that I love Severance is that it thoroughly surprised, confused, and blindsided me. I love how hard it goes at its ideas, how much it digs out by exploring its concepts. But all I can do is talk around that. I don't really want to tell someone about all the stuff that it does, because then they wouldn't get to experience it the same way I did. You see this problem quite a lot in video games. Think The Outer Wilds, Return of the Obra Dinn, or Case of the Golden Idol. To tell someone about the appeal of these things, you have to, at least in part, spoil what makes them cool. These information and concept-heavy works of art make themselves unexplainable. But that is a core part of their appeal. I think the fortunate thing about this is that once you have experienced one of these discovery-oriented works of art, you do learn to see the appeal. You chase that high of piecing together mysteries, solving puzzles, and discovering something unexpected. Part of the reason these experiences work, whether it be a TV show or a game, is because they lay down the rules first. Discovery with no rules is meaningless. I can say random meaningless stuff all day. It doesn't make it an exciting act of discovery. Severance works because it boldly lays down its rules at the start, and within that established context, shows us things that we don't expect or predict. And it's such a high, piecing together pieces of information, trying to think a step ahead of the show, having your mind blown again and again. It's awesome. The internet is awash with theories, and that is only possible because the show has given us enough information to work with that we can actually form those theories. It's playing with us, daring us to try and stay one step ahead, and it is wonderful. I think the other thing about Severance, and the other thing that makes it a challenge to pitch, is its subject matter. There are plenty of things about my job that I like, but the principal thing that I do not like about it is that I must do it. I think the ordinary thing to do about this is to ignore it or push it away. We all just keep going. Say, if you love your work, you'll never work a day in your life. We lock ourselves away from thinking about the reality of working life with a grind set, a dream of retirement, or a pretense that we enjoy our work enough that we would totally do it even if they didn't pay us. But Severance is about work. That much is immediately clear. And I think a lot of us try to avoid thinking about work when we're not working. That's not to suggest that Severance is difficult watching or anything like that, but I do think a big part of why the multi-layered implications of Severance's world building are not immediately apparent to us is that we would all rather not think about it. We would rather not think about how big corporations would treat their workers if those workers didn't have a memory of what happened at work. Instead, we'll look over at The Office, a delightfully distracting comedy that manages to make a dead-end sales job seem like the most appealing and exciting thing in the world, where everyone has time to chat and hang out and get up to hijinks. And The Office is great, don't get me wrong, but I think it's also indicative of a particular approach that a lot of shows take when discussing work. It's a familiar, comforting form of escapism. It presents a reassuring vision of the reality we all live in, one where people get to make friends and have time to themselves, and sure, sometimes there are challenges, but it's also sweet and funny and endearing, so who cares? As much as I already engage with a bunch of Severance's themes, as much as I'm concerned by the actions of megacorporations, I still found that a bunch of Severance's most interesting ideas did not immediately occur to me. Because of course a company would exploit and enslave their workers if they didn't maintain their memories outside of work. Of course they would aim to inspire cult-like devotion, use unethical punishments, lie about workplace injuries and events. I love how Severance explores these ideas, but it doesn't exactly make for escapist TV. Hey kids, want to be made acutely aware of the unethical actions of major corporations? In a lot of ways, Severance feels like a gift. It is, at a technical level, stunning. It looks great, it's beautifully shot, it has some of the best writing we've seen on TV in recent years, and some of the best acting as well, with a couple of big names attached. Which is crazy to me because it doesn't seem particularly commercial, it's difficult to explain, has slightly niche genre leanings, and it's on Apple TV Plus, no less. Maybe it was Ben Stiller's involvement, but his work is totally behind the scenes. It's not like they're selling it on his star power. Season 1 didn't seem like a smash hit, and what success it has had appears to be driven more by Season 2, which has had a pretty stellar marketing campaign. I only got on board with Season 2 because of word of mouth, but even then I didn't care for the pitch. I liked Adam Scott, sure, the train station marketing stunt got me intrigued, but mostly it was just because I had a very trusted friend recommend it. And it's an expensive show to make. It cost $20 million an episode for Season 2. Either Apple is going for a make actually good shows and hope people watch it kind of strategy, or, I don't know, maybe Tim Cook just likes it. Apple TV seems to be making shows for a pretty niche audience, and that audience seems to be exactly me. I loved Severance, and Foundation and Mythic Quest both have me properly interested, which is baffling because who is watching these shows? I know when my interests are niche and weird. Seriously, who is this for? Severance Season 2 seems to be getting a bit more buzz, and I really hope that momentum holds around it. Pretty much everyone who watched the first season has turned into a Severance evangelist, and maybe it's paying off. I hope so, at least. Maybe Apple just has money to burn, and if so, I'd rather we got some good seasons of TV out of it. I am hoping that the show doesn't get cancelled before it's done. If you haven't already, watch Severance, and if you want your friends and family to watch it, don't bother trying to explain it, just tie them down or something.